In the beginning of the episode we see, having nowhere to go, Anastasia wanders aimlessly through the city at night, thinking about Abe's words and feeling completely helpless. After a while, a group of men approaches her, clearly with bad intentions, telling her that a girl shouldn't be out alone this late at night. Anastasia remains silent and doesn't resist as they inspect her and realize something is wrong. The moment they notice the slave crest on her skin, they realize that the connection with her master has been cut, meaning they can take advantage of her. The men decide to do exactly that, leading Anastasia toward a dark alleyway. She doesn't fight back, convinced that this world is full of evil and unfairness, and that Abe was right. The special slave crest prevents her from dying or running away, meaning she will never be able to escape. Knowing this has left her completely hopeless, and she no longer cares what happens to her because this world feels like nothing but darkness. Anastasia gives up completely, but just then, all the men surrounding her suddenly collapse to the ground, beaten and confused. When she opens her eyes again, all she sees is Eftel. He warns the men that Anastasia is with him and tells them to get lost. His stern expression is enough to intimidate every one of them, so they immediately apologize and run away in fear, leaving the two of them alone. Once they're gone, Eftel wastes no time asking Anastasia why she took Rikiri without saying a word. Feeling guilty, Anastasia drops to the ground and apologizes, explaining that it was all because of the special slave crest. Eftel realizes he asked the wrong question, so he changes his wording and asks why she never told him about it. Anastasia nervously explains that even if she had told him, the special slave crest she carries cannot be removed, no matter what he does. After all, the slave contract created by the crest is absolute and protected by a god, meaning no single person can do anything about it. Anastasia bursts into tears as she explains this, but Eftel pats her head to comfort her and asks who cares about that god. His confidence catches Anastasia by surprise, so Eftel stands up and reveals that he is Eftel Orkut, the Lightning Emperor and legendary sage. He explains that he ended his life as Eftel, the Lightning Emperor, and was reborn in this body. Anastasia tries to process what she has just heard, realizing that he is one of the legendary 4 emperors, which is a lie. It's almost impossible to believe. Even so, Eftel reminds her that she has been with him for some time and asks her to think about everything she has seen. He tells her not to assume she knows the limits of what he can do, and at that moment, Anastasia starts recalling everything he has shown her so far. She remembers how easily he used powerful spells that nobody else could use, especially a human, and how effortlessly he used that original level 10 spell called Eftel. Now she finally sees the connection and realizes that he really is the Lightning Emperor. Eftel explains that he took her in knowing everything about her, so he has her back and she doesn't need to worry about anything. Now that she knows the whole truth, Anastasia breaks down and admits that she can't do anything more by herself, so she asks him to please save her. After years of trying to carry everything on her own, she is finally asking someone for help. Eftel readily accepts and tells her to leave the rest to him. The next day, a merchant arrives at the Portis mansion to see what Abe has for him, and he is thrilled when he sees something as valuable as Rikiri, exactly the kind of treasure he would expect from the Portis family. With just one look, he can tell that this katana could easily be considered a national treasure. Abe shamelessly boasts about how important they are as nobles and says that naturally, they would possess something like this. He also points out its historical value, making it truly one of a kind, and asks how much he can get for it. The merchant initially offers 1,000 gold, but then raises his offer to 5,000 gold, clearly desperate to get his hands on the katana. Abe is certainly quicker to accept than he is to think, so he agrees immediately without even trying to negotiate for more, despite Rikiri's true value. Just like that, he hands over the national treasure, telling the merchant that it's his for only 5,000 gold. Even the merchant is surprised by how easily the deal went through, but he is far too happy to question it. He explains that he doesn't have that much money with him today and will need to return later. Abe agrees anyway and tells him that he is free to drink as much as he wants before leaving today. Abe has no idea that he could have gotten a much better offer, but all he cares about is getting 3 more treasures just like this one. After sealing the deal, he heads outside, clearly pleased as he thinks about how much money he is going to make from Anastasia. But then he suddenly sees her walking onto the mansion grounds. He is completely stunned, almost brought to tears. With her head lowered, Abe decides to approach her and remarks that she has returned a little too soon. Wearing a malicious smile, he asks Anastasia if she has finally accepted that she will never be able to escape, no matter where she goes. To his surprise, Anastasia actually talks back and nervously asks him to give it back. At first, Abe can't even make out what she is saying, so Anastasia repeats herself more clearly and asks him to return the katana. She still avoids looking at him, obviously frightened. Just then, we return to the previous night, right after Anastasia explains everything to Eftel and tells him about her past. Now that Eftel understands the situation, he simply tells her that they need to go and get Rikiri back. His calm reaction catches Anastasia off guard, so she asks if he isn't angry with her. Eftel doesn't even understand why he would be angry, which makes Anastasia remind him that she betrayed him and stole his katana. Even then, Eftel simply asks whether she actually wanted to do that. Anastasia immediately says no, but explains that she can't escape her slave crest, and people like her don't think about what they want to do. Eftel challenges her reasoning and asks if that is really true. Even if her sister couldn't resist her slave crest, she still spent her entire life protecting Anastasia simply because that was what she wanted to do. Anastasia freezes as she hears this, and for a moment, her mind returns to the past. She feels like a little girl again, remembering how her sister always stood firmly by her beliefs no matter what happened. That memory brings Anastasia to her knees, and she finally realizes that they were never able to control her sister's heart. Unlike Tatiana, however, Anastasia had simply surrendered to fate and stopped fighting back. She feels guilty when she realizes this, but at the same time, the thought gives her new determination. She finally admits that she was wrong and tells Eftel that she now understands what he has been trying to teach her. Eftel had told her before that it was okay to say something when it upset her because she was allowed to have her own will. That was the most important thing he wanted her to understand, and now that she finally does, Anastasia tells Eftel that she has a request. Back in the present, Anastasia looks more determined than before. She speaks with a firmer voice, finally meets Abe's eyes, and asks him to give Eftel's katana back. The moment she finishes speaking, Abe grabs her by the collar of her shirt and threateningly tells her to say that again. Anastasia doesn't let herself. She isn't intimidated anymore. Despite the situation she is in, Anastasia doesn't hesitate to repeat herself and demands that Abe return Eftel's katana. Abe quickly becomes irritated and pulls her closer, asking when she started thinking she could tell him what to do when things had always been the other way around. He reminds her what happens when a slave disobeys their master and threatens her with a cruel punishment, asking if she is prepared for it. But for once, Anastasia doesn't look completely frightened. There is still some fight in her eyes, and Abe immediately notices it. He tells her that he doesn't like that expression on her face, then suddenly lifts her into the air and angrily asks if she is trying to get herself killed. Anastasia remains firm despite the threat. She knows this was her decision, and she refuses to run away from it. Standing her ground, she stares at Abe with defiance in her eyes and decides that she won't run anymore. She grips his arm tightly and firmly tells him that she is done doing whatever his family wants. This immediately gets on Abe's nerves, but he tries to control himself. He says he doesn't know what that boy from the lesser race told her, although he admits that she has guts. Abe drops her to the ground and grabs Rikiri, using the katana's scabbard to strike her repeatedly while insulting her. After beating her for a while, Abe stops and looks down at her, asking why she would rely on a lesser race to save her. He uses the scabbard to threaten her, but even after everything she has endured, Anastasia continues looking at him defiantly, making it clear that she is still resisting and hasn't given up. Abe becomes even more irritated and throws the scabbard aside, leaving only the katana in his hand. He asks how long she thinks she can keep resisting and says that a foolish slave like her needs someone to teach her who her master is. With a disturbing expression, he assures her that he will stop before she dies. Anastasia finally looks frightened, because the horrible smile on his face makes it clear that he has no good intentions. Abe's smile becomes even more threatening as he tells her that he will start by attacking her face so she won't defy him anymore. Without hesitation, he raises the katana into the air and swings it down. He brings the katana down with full force, clearly holding nothing back. Anastasia flinches in fear, but just before the blade reaches her, Eftel steps in and stops it with his bare hand, calmly telling her that she did great. Then, we return to the previous night once again, when Anastasia explains what her request is. She tells Eftel that what happened this time was her fault, so she needs to atone for it herself. Eftel isn't convinced and clearly doesn't like the idea, but Anastasia insists, asking him to let her try to make up for it on her own. Since that is what she wants, Eftel has no choice but to accept, doing so with a smile. However, back in the present, Eftel is anything but happy with the situation. He has just watched Abe mistreat Anastasia and heard all of his disgusting words and threats. Eftel tells Anastasia that she has already atoned enough, allowing her to finally snap out of her shock. With tears in her eyes, she thanks him and apologizes. Abe interrupts the moment, irritably addressing Eftel as a lesser race and asking if he really came all this way just for Anastasia. Wearing an even more ridiculous smile, he mocks him and reminds him that Anastasia is his slave, so there is nothing Eftel can do about it. Even so, Abe's expression turns wicked as he says that since Eftel is already here, he might as well deal with him too. He starts laughing uncontrollably after saying this, completely unaware of what is about to happen. Eftel is now seriously furious, and he doesn't even bother hiding it. He tells Abe that he is never going to touch Anastasia again. The instant he finishes speaking, Eftel punches Abe directly in the face, distorting his expression for a moment before sending him flying. Abe clearly wasn't expecting it, and he crashes to the ground, landing on his face. He quickly gets back up, angrier than ever because Eftel has now hit him twice, dealing another blow to his pride. Abe shouts that Eftel will pay for this and swears that he is going to kill him. After quickly regaining his composure, his wicked smile returns as he warns both Eftel and Anastasia that neither of them will leave this place alive. Abe reminds them exactly where they are and explains that this entire place is his mansion, the territory of the Ports clan, one of the most important demon clans. He says that they entered his territory without permission, so they have no right to complain if his 300 guards kill them. Without wasting another second, Abe calls for all of his guards, and both Eftel and Anastasia. Anastasia and Eftel are completely surrounded within seconds. Most of the guards look more like bandits or mercenaries, but Abe proudly declares that he paid good money for them because they are all masters of magic, martial arts, and swordsmanship. With that kind of strength on his side, he is convinced that Eftel and Anastasia won't even be able to scratch them, making him feel completely invincible. Abe wears another creepy smile and orders his elite troops to kill the invader, the one from the lesser race. Without hesitation, all the guards charge toward Eftel with their weapons drawn. Abe remains completely confident, but his smile disappears the moment Eftel raises his hand and begins casting a level 7 spell called Chaos Weed. At first, Abe can't believe what he is seeing and starts laughing mockingly. He finds it ridiculous that a lesser race, a human, would even attempt to use magic, let alone an impossible level 7 spell. Unable to stop laughing, Abe tells Eftel that he must have meant level 1, since even that would be too much for a lesser race, and says Eftel will be dead before he can finish the incantation. But Abe suddenly freezes in shock when a magic circle appears in front of Eftel's hand. It confirms that the spell really is level 7, and Eftel didn't even need an incantation to cast it. With that single spell, Eftel effortlessly sends all the guards flying, preventing any of them from getting close. The spell is powerful enough to destroy the entire mansion as well, sending Abe flying and leaving nothing but empty terrain behind. Abe screams when he sees what has happened to his mansion, but he can only collapse to the ground, completely powerless. Everything becomes silent, and even Anastasia is too stunned to say anything after witnessing such a scene. Although Abe is lying on the ground, clearly defeated, he stubbornly tells Eftel that he still hasn't won. He insists that they have forgotten something very important, but before he can explain what it is, Merlin suddenly arrives and interrupts him. She completely ignores Abe and tells Eftel that it seems the items stolen from her mansion have already been sold. Merlin also says that she has been investigating the Port's family, but apparently, there is nothing but bad rumors surrounding them. According to those rumors, the family has been stealing and selling artifacts while also smuggling illicit substances. They are also said to have deep connections with the local mafia. Eftel isn't surprised by this, especially since some of the guards he just fought looked exactly like mafia members. He has already blown them all away. After hearing this, Merlin walks over to Abe, who is surprisingly still conscious despite lying on the ground. Once she has his attention, Merlin tells him that he no longer belongs at her academy and that, using her authority as dean, she is expelling him. Abe is completely shocked by this announcement, so shocked that he finally passes out on the ground. Now that everything is over, Anastasia returns the katana to Eftel and apologizes to him again. Eftel smiles as he takes Rikiri back, assuring her that she doesn't need to worry about it anymore. He then asks Anastasia if she feels a little better now. The question catches her off guard, making her reflect on everything she has gone through up to this moment. Anastasia confirms that she does, deeply moved as tears fill her eyes. She tells him that she won't give up on herself anymore because, no matter what her fate may be, it is up to her to live her own life. Eftel is happy that she finally understands this, because it is exactly what he has been trying to teach her from the beginning. Even Merlin is glad to see that Anastasia finally understands, and Anastasia looks much happier now as she thanks Eftel for everything. That's it for today, like and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.